There's someone watching me. Part 1. My name is John and I am 21 years old. Currently I work at the local diner, and my usual shift doesn't end until close to midnight. We are open 24 hours a day, so usually I'm not too afraid of walking to my vehicle. It might be dark, but I knew I wasn't alone in a sense. But a couple nights ago, as I was walking to my car, I saw someone standing on the opposite side of the parking lot. Obviously, I thought that was weird, but by the time I noticed them, I was over halfway to my vehicle, so I kept walking while keeping an eye on them. When I got in my car, I locked the doors and looked over to see if the person was still standing there, but they were gone. I figured the best I could do is text my coworkers and let them know that there was someone hanging around the property to call the police if they saw them again. The drive home was as normal as any other night. I lived about a half hour away from the diner on a gravel road. I parked my car in the driveway and went inside to wind down for the night. As I was hanging up my jacket, I happened to glance out of the window by my front door. There was someone standing at the end of my driveway. Someone watching me. Part 2. I didn't know who they were, how they got to my house, or what they wanted. Why would someone be following me? I scrambled to lock the door and began checking every window I could to make sure they were locked as well. I called 911 and told them that someone had followed me to my home from my workplace and that I needed officers right away. The woman on dispatch informed me that it would be at least 30 to 45 minutes before an officer would arrive. My mind started racing. What if they tried to get in? I don't know what the hell they want from me. My thoughts were disrupted by the sound of glass shattering in my entryway. Oh God, they just broke the window by the door. The woman on dispatch told me to find somewhere to hide, so I ran to the laundry room and somehow managed to squeeze myself into the dryer. I watched the shadows on the wall as the deadbolt was unlocked and the front door slowly swung open. Then I saw the silhouette of a person and heard heavy footsteps walking through my house. If they walked in the laundry room, they would see that the dryer door was cracked, and they'd probably hear my labored breathing. When I heard the footsteps stop in the doorway of the laundry room, I covered my mouth, ended the call, and tried to stay still. When I looked through the crack of the dryer door, I swear I saw the glimmer of a blade reflect as they turned to walk back towards the front door. I waited as I listened to them walking from room to room, and I'm assuming they were looking for me. Again, I tried to think of any possible reason why someone would want to do this to me. It still didn't make sense. But as fast as they came, they were gone. The police found nothing. No evidence, no suspect. My son has been missing for 10 years. 10 years ago, my son and his friends went to go explore the abandoned house on the outskirts of town. He had always been interested in the paranormal, and I saw it as a sign of intelligence that most others didn't have. As a parent, I didn't want to push my child away from the things they were passionate about. He felt like he could help the spirits, and he knew about the reputation of the old house outside of town. Had I known that my son's passion would lead to him disappearing into thin air, I would have made different choices. The kids started streaming on Twitch like they always did when they reached their location. I was always supportive of my son, so I was watching their stream from home on our family television. I noticed that there was a lot of audio and video complications, so I commented in the chat that their stream was having issues. My son read the message and acknowledged the issues. He said, "Don't worry, Dad, I'll get it fixed." That was the last time I would hear my son speaking to me. The group spent a couple minutes trying to get everything straightened out so they could begin their investigation, but that's when I saw something that they couldn't. Standing behind them was one of the tallest shadows I had ever seen, at least 9 feet tall. I wanted to scream to the kids to run and get out of there as fast as they could, but my fear took away my ability to speak. The shadow loomed over them for 5 minutes, and the whole time I was unable to take my eyes off of the black holes that I soon realized were eye sockets. Then, a soft static noise began taking over their audio feed. It got louder and louder until eventually even the kids heard it. That's when my son turned around and finally saw what had been standing behind them, as did the others. Within seconds, my son's phone fell to the floor. After bouncing a couple of times, it landed with the screen up, still streaming. All that could be heard was complete silence, and there was no movement on the screen after that. I called the police and told them what I had just watched. They were skeptical and said that it was probably just a prank to get views, but they said they'd check it out anyway. A half hour later, I received a call back from the chief of police. He informed me that there was nobody there and that the only trace of the kids ever being there was my son's phone laying on the ground, face up, still streaming. That was 10 years ago. Nobody has ever gone in that evil house since.
I was hunted by a man in the woods. Part 1. My name is William, and I'm a 56-year-old who enjoys being outdoors as much as my busy schedule allows me to be. Camping, fishing, hunting, hiking. Every year, a couple buddies and I would travel to Yellowstone National Park for a week of hunting. We had done this every year for 22 years. Each of us would set up our own tent, typically within half a mile of each other to ensure privacy, but we were close enough in case of emergency as well. Each hunter was equipped with their own flare gun and a half-dozen flares so that we could be found if we got lost or injured. We always made sure that we had appropriate firearms to protect ourselves from the local wildlife, even aside from what we were hunting. We thought of every what if possible, but we never considered being prey to another human being. The morning of our second day, we decided to go out as a group and survey our surroundings and find a good place to set up. Our group was away from our tents for about an hour. When we came back, a couple of the tents had clearly been rummaged through. Everyone checked their belongings to see if anything was missing, but all that was missing was a couple food items. It wasn't enough to startle us, so we decided it wasn't worth panicking over. For all we knew, maybe someone ran out of food. I decided to head back to the spot we had found so I could find a tree to set myself up. My buddies stayed behind to get a fire going to make some lunch for when I returned in a couple hours. I had finally found the right tree and had Dutton set up when I heard a gunshot coming from the direction of our camp. However, I swore I heard my friends laughing right afterwards, so I thought maybe they had been drinking and doing some target practice. It wasn't uncommon for them to let loose and have fun when we went on these trips, but it frustrated me because they knew I was in my stand. All of us are hunters, and they certainly knew that gunshots would scare away anything in the area. More gunshots followed, as well as more laughter, and the sound of what I assumed was one of my friends coming through the woods toward my stand. But there was nobody there. I waited for 15 minutes and never got a visual of who or what was walking around my stand. I called out the names of my buddies and told them to quit messing around, but I never got an answer. I decided to look through my scope in the direction of our camp, and what I saw made my heart and stomach drop. There was a tall, burly man standing behind a tree with a hooded sweatshirt on. There was blood all round his mouth, and he was staring at me smiling. My hand started to shake, and I accidentally lost sight of him as I almost dropped my rifle. I couldn't process the blood around this man's mouth. Where were my friends? Were they safe? Who is he? I was hunted by a man in the woods. Part 2. Once I managed to look back down my scope, the man was gone. It was as if he was never there. The only thing left behind were claw marks in the tree he had hidden behind, but there's plenty of wildlife in Yellowstone. I climbed down and started in the direction of our camp. I no longer heard laughter or any sign of life at all for that matter. I kept hearing sticks snapping in the woods around me, but every time I stopped to look around I could never see anything. The first tent I came upon was my friend Dave's, and the smell that overcame me was enough to make me physically sick. The fabric of the tent was basically shredded, and inside I saw what looked like a human leg that had been half-eaten by an animal. The overwhelming smell of pennies made it almost impossible to search the tent, but I knew that Dave, or the rest of him, was nowhere to be seen. I was in a state of shock. This couldn't possibly have anything to do with the man that I saw, could it? Not knowing what fate my other friends met, I took off towards the rest of the tents. The scene at Dave's tent was like child's play compared to what I came across when I reached the other tents. The ground was covered in blood and my friends' bodies had been ripped apart, and once again it looked as though they had been eaten. But that's when I noticed a bite mark on one of my friends that resembled a set of human teeth. I started to panic. I knew I needed to get a hold of someone, anyone. I pulled out my phone and tried to dial 911, but my phone only had 1% battery. I managed to tell dispatch that my friends had been eaten, but that's as far as I got before my phone died. As the call cut off, I heard laughing again, except this time I knew it wasn't my friends because they were lifeless in front of me. I quickly turned around and came face to face with the man I saw earlier. I could see the skin and flesh in his teeth as he stared at me and smiled. I didn't notice his blood-stained clothes before, but up close I realized that his sweatshirt was literally dripping with fresh blood. Once my initial state of shock wore off, I bolted in the opposite direction of the man, but I heard him following right behind me. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't have a map or compass, and my cell phone was dead. I was just hoping that I would eventually come across someone who could help me. I fired a couple shots behind me with my handgun, but bullets didn't seem to slow him down. After running for what felt like hours, a small cabin came into view, and there were lights on inside. I knew this might be my only chance. I ran inside and immediately began barricading the doors and windows. I didn't see anyone else inside, but I did see a cell phone sitting on the counter. I called 911 using that cell phone and managed to stick it out until park rangers and police located me in the cabin. I was told that I had imagined the man and that my friends had been mauled by a bear. But I know what I saw, and I damn well know what was chasing me, and it wasn't a bear. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you'll hit subscribe and stick around for my future stories. I write all of my content myself, and I would love to hear your ideas for stories to come. Let me know in the comments on this video what you would like to hear, or find me on TikTok at HauntedFreak118. Until next time, stay creepy.